Hello humans, today we will be talking about how your lungs work. First, you breathe because blood flow is increased to your lungs. When the air enters into the lungs, it becomes filled with oxygen and CO2, carbon dioxide. Because the blood flows from the heart to the lungs, the carbon dioxide is released back into the body. In order to keep some of this carbon dioxide out of you breathe because blood flow is increased to your lungs. When the air enters into the lungs, it becomes filled with oxygen and CO2, carbon dioxide. Because the blood flows from the heart to the lungs, the carbon dioxide is released back into the body. In order to keep some of this carbon dioxide out of your blood, the tissues in your lungs are covered with tiny capillaries. These capillaries allow oxygen and carbon dioxide to pass through them. When the air is blocked, fluid comes into the capillaries. This fluid collects water, salts and other substances from the capillaries, filters water coming in by passing it through a spongy membrane of mucus on the cations through the walls of the capillaries, and is sent to the larger veins. When the air is blocked and fluid comes into the capillaries, it can cause a buildup of water, salt and other substances. This can lead to a condition called edema, where the veins become enlarged and the tissue around them starts to swell. If left untreated, edema can cause serious health problems. Edema is the medical term for swelling. It occurs when fluid accumulates in the body's tissues. This can happen when the veins become enlarged and the tissue around them starts to swell. Edema can also occur when the body's lymphatic system is not working properly. When the carbon dioxide is removed from the lungs, your tissues can lose some of the excess water from the breathing. If excess water is not removed quickly, blood flow will become slowed and the tissues will start to swell. Your organs will start to shrink because they are not getting enough blood. Your lungs will also have the same health problems your lungs normally would because the lungs are made up of gas molecules. After about 3 hours, your lungs usually have some fluid trapped in the lungs. This is usually around 1/10 of an inch or a couple of millimeters of air trapped in the lungs. Your lungs will also have mucus in the lungs. The mucus is produced by cells, which can break down the mucus by absorbing oxygen and carbon dioxide. With time, these gas bubbles will settle down. The next time you are stuck in traffic with the air pressure under high pressure, you will notice that you cannot breathe very deeply. If the air pressure is too low, you will have more exposure to gas in the air. When the air pressure is low in your car, a lot of gas molecules will travel into the lungs. With more exposure, your air passages will absorb more gas into your lungs. As your lungs absorb more gas into the lungs, the air will be more difficult to breathe. Because there is a buildup of gas in your lungs, it is easy to create breathlessness. With some time, the carbon dioxide that was in your lungs will be passed out and carbon dioxide from your breathing can be removed from the air. When the carbon dioxide is removed from your breathing, it leaves behind a lot of other carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide mixes with other gases in the air, it leaves behind the smell of your breath. The carbon dioxide is also becoming like blood in the lung and other places in the body. Blood and tissues in the lungs also take up carbon dioxide. As your tissues absorb carbon dioxide into the body, they also absorb a lot of blood and some of your oxygen. The blood in the lungs, liver and lungs becomes heavy and starts to run in the arteries. When the oxygen in the lungs is removed and carbon dioxide is absorbed, it becomes dangerous. There is blood going into your lungs. Some of this blood has already traveled from your lungs into the circulation. But it is not going to go back to the heart because the blood coming into your lungs is not circulating back to the heart. The lungs are now filled with carbon dioxide. This blood and oxygen move into the liver. When the blood goes to the liver, it leaves a heavy blood clot and an acid liquid. The blood and other tissues absorb carbon dioxide. As this acid liquid is moved into the walls of the arteries, It becomes dangerous because the acids in the blood can break up the inside of the artery. These acids and blood flow become dangerous. In very severe cases, this acid liquid can move to the lungs where they become dangerous. Because of this acid liquid, the walls of the arteries become separated and blood can flow between the arteries. The arterial walls become slippery with blood and the arterial blood flow is stopped. The reason carbon dioxide levels are so low can also cause serious health problems. You can develop breathlessness and carbon dioxide levels can be dangerous. This is dangerous because carbon dioxide is a dangerous gas that can cause serious health problems. When the carbon dioxide becomes so dangerous that the oxygen in your lungs has been reduced, your body can only use it in limited ways. You can only breathe small amounts of carbon dioxide, which can cause blood to become stagnant. This cannot move in your arteries. Instead, it is stuck in the arteries. This can result in the risk of infection in the lungs. Some tissues in your body will also absorb carbon dioxide. These tissues are your skin. These tissues help you to absorb carbon dioxide. The fluid inside the skin also is mostly carbon dioxide. When skin absorbs carbon dioxide, this fluid mixes into the bloodstream and forms a form of fluid that has carbon dioxide. This form of fluid will circulate around the heart. This is a form of blood that has carbon dioxide. Normally the fluids in your lungs have oxygen. The fluid from the lungs travels to the lungs. But when the fluids come into contact with a substance that is a mixture of carbon dioxide and oxygen, they become too much carbon dioxide. Then, because there is no oxygen to help, the oxygen is allowed to leave and carbon dioxide comes in. When the oxygen is removed from the tissues, carbon dioxide needs to leave. This creates some problems with the blood around the organs. Because the blood circulation has become stagnant and carbon dioxide has come into contact with the tissues, the blood becomes sticky. This is called mucus. The mucus forms around the lungs and other parts of the body. The mucus forms in the lungs and other parts of the body because of the carbon dioxide. The mucus forms in the lungs because of the acid in the blood. The acid in the blood creates a mucus that forms in the lungs. This is a form of mucus that is very sticky. This is a problem because the sticky mucus can become trapped in the lungs. The mucus can become trapped in the lungs because of the lack of oxygen in the tissues. The mucus is a problem because it can cause problems with the lungs. The mucus can become stuck in the lungs and cause problems with the lungs. The mucus can become stuck in the lungs because of the lack of oxygen in the tissues. The acid in the blood creates a sticky substance that forms in the tissues. This is a problem because the sticky substance can become trapped in the lungs. The sticky substance can cause problems with the lungs, as this sticky substance accumulates. There is also an increase in carbon dioxide in the tissues. The carbon dioxide increases because of the sticky substance that is stuck in the tissues. The lungs will not allow much fluid to pass through the capillaries in the lungs. Because of this, the tissue is left without enough oxygen. The body cannot get the oxygen from other areas of the body. Instead, it has to pass the carbon dioxide and the acid from the tissues into the bloodstream. This is how the lungs pump out the carbon dioxide from the tissues. The blood also needs to pass into the heart. The heart moves the carbon dioxide around in the arteries to allow it to flow into the heart. But because of the absence of oxygen, there is an increase in the level of carbon dioxide in the blood. The level of carbon dioxide in the blood remains high because of the walls of the arteries that are not reacting to the flow of the blood. The walls of the arteries are not able to release the carbon dioxide from the tissues. Instead, the cells move the carbon dioxide to the heart because the heart pumps the blood through the arteries. But the body cannot receive the oxygen that comes in the veins. The oxygen will come into the lungs and then return to the bloodstream. The lungs need oxygen to breathe. But they can only receive oxygen when the blood moves through the capillaries. If the capillaries do not move enough oxygen around in the tissues, then the tissues become stagnant and trapped. This can also cause problems with the heart and other parts of the body. There is another problem that may occur when there is an increase in carbon dioxide. This is a problem with the heart. The oxygen that comes from the capillaries in the heart will travel to the lungs. There the carbon dioxide is removed from the blood. But because there is an increase in the level of carbon dioxide, the oxygen is then transported back into the heart and to the rest of the body. This causes an increase in the heart rate. The heart will have to pump out the carbon dioxide much faster than it was previously. This will cause the heart to be very heavy and could result in a heart attack. But if the heart is very heavy, then there is also a risk that it will stop working. There are other dangers of having too much carbon dioxide in the body, in addition to being a problem with the heart and the heart rate. There is also a problem with the level of oxygen in the tissues. This is called carbon dioxide toxicity. Signs of carbon dioxide. Mucus will be sticky in the lungs and around other parts of the body because of the carbon dioxide. The mucus can cause problems because it sticks to tissues. Mucus can become stuck in lungs because there is a lack of oxygen in the tissues. Mucus may also accumulate around the head, ears, sinuses, and mouth. This can be a sign of carbon dioxide toxicity. The tissues of the body may also have a sticky substance around them. The sticky substance may be difficult to remove because of a lack of oxygen. This can cause mouth and throat sores because the tissues are not moving or moving poorly.
Also subscribe!